Well, good morning, folks. I'm BK. I'm the director of the Park Maintenance Institute. Jeremy will be right with us to he's leading the discussion for right now, but he's having some technical difficulties. So I figure we can start off here just to kind of introduce myself if you don't know me, but also just Jeremy does have some things that he was going to cover in overall discussion. But while we're waiting, why don't you guys share either in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and share some of the topics that you would like to discuss today so that we make this most valuable for everyone, and so we're not wasting time and just sitting here waiting to. Feel free, anyone want to pipe up first.
Hi, BK. This is Kristen from Carlisle.
Hey there, Kristen.
Hi there. I thought I'll just lead off. I had emailed Jeremy about possibly discussing some water slide rules today. I'm looking at updating my rules for next year. We used to have a height requirement and we went away from that the last couple of years because we were making so many exceptions and doing water tests to allow children that were shorter than the height requirement. It became very cumbersome and time consuming to allow those exceptions, which we felt were rightfully so, because the kids that were the exceptions could swim like superstars. So it felt kind of off to have this height requirement when we had really good swimmers who just weren't tall enough. So like I said, the last couple of years we've gone away from the height requirement, but this year more than any other year we had it just seemed like one issue after another with our water slide, and a lot of it stemmed from parents lying about their children's swimming ability and then demanding to wait at the bottom of the slide, and then it being kind of a safety issue at the bottom of the slide where they wanted to wait right at the bottom of the flume and catch their kids. So yeah, I don't know if in fact Todd shared with me from Center Region his water slide rules, but if anybody else has any recommendations. And Chris, thank you for piping in and letting me know, the lifeguard store has those signage, the signs for the height markers. I'll check that out. But yeah, if anybody else has any feedback on water slide regulations, that would be great.
What is your, what's the manufacturer of your water slide?
So it's very old. It's from the 90s, but it was a Miracle water slide.
Okay. Because Whitewater recommends 48 inches. So that's how we get away with just blanket, just saying 48 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we are pretty hard on the 48-inch rule.
Yeah.
Even
no
if they
exception.
can swim. No exceptions, because it's really hard because our outdoor pool is relatively small. So we don't have like a place where they can we can do a swim test. Mm-hmm. So we have to stick with the 48-inch rule. And then also inside too, we don't want to use our lap pool for our slide as well, our indoor slide. So we just stay with the 48 inches.
Okay.
Hi, Kristen. This is Kat from LMT. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We also have a Miracle slide. We are enforcing a 42-inch rule on our slide, but we kind of exceed the standard because we do swim tests every child under 12 that wants to ride that slide. While that is, time consuming and a little cumbersome for our leadership team, it's definitely helped with the amount of simple assists and saves that we have at that location. And we also haven't run into the problem of parents trying to catch their children at the bottom of the slide, just because every single child has had to pass that swim test.
Okay. So you test any child under 12 that isn't tall enough?
No, every child under 12.
Child.
Even if they're 42 inches tall. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing.
Hey, Kristen, it's Sue from over at Mechanicsburg.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. Hey, we just actually implemented the swim test and it was everyone. It didn't matter if it was a child or an adult. Everyone had to be swim tested this year. it reduced our saves. Last year we had 55 and we only had probably about 6 this year in that area.
Wow.
So yeah, so like I said, everybody, and it was cumbersome. Every hour at the top of the hour is when we did our swim test, and we assigned 2 of our guards to that area and they did the testing. We also have used like a T or as a square measuring tool because we have parents coming to us as managers saying, well, so-and-so was able to do it the other day because they were 40, ours is 48 inches. And so we used a square or the T measuring stick. And everybody has to be measured when they're close. I have my guards continually doing it. And sometimes they slack off and that's when we have the issues. But yeah, and we have to do it. Our pool or our slides are by Aqua Blue. And that was again from back in the 90s as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I hopped on. I was having some technical difficulties and I just said the heck with it and I'm on my cell phone. So that's why I was on, then off. Now I'm back again. So thanks for taking it, BK.
You betcha. Yeah, we just started with some questions. And so now we'll lead into, I put the bullet points you sent over in the chat.
Awesome.
So it looks like we're capping it off with recap of 2022 season.
Yeah. Who wants to go first? This is therapy time. Nobody? Well, I'll share first.
Started off. How was your season?
So my season was okay. It was interesting because I know we talked a lot already here about water slides. We actually opened up a new dual flume water slide, and it was on a very compressed timeline. It was not approved until the end of February, and we were dealing with, as everyone has been, supply chain issues, lead times, things of that nature. And we were hoping to have the slide open around the 4th of July. That turned into the end of July, which then we were able to get one slide open, not perfectly, but we had one slide running. And we ended up not really opening both slides until the end of August. We had about a week and a half left of the season because we were sent wrong motors for our slides. So we actually had to uninstall them and send them back and then wait again. And so it was definitely an interesting process and not something that I would want anyone else to have to deal with. Of course, you know, once we actually got the slides assembled, which they went up really quickly, that was an awesome process to see. 2 water slides and a tower being assembled. It was assembled in a matter of days, like 4 days. And then we waited and people were saying, well, why are the slides up? Why can't we use them? Well, there's plumbing that needs connected and there's electrical that needs connected and things of that nature. So that was the specter for me hanging over the entire season. But at any rate, you know, we were put up against, you know, a very difficult timeline. And the fact that we did have them open for any portion of the season, I think was a victory for us. At least I'm going to count it as a victory. And then otherwise, the one thing that really stuck out to me this year, unfortunately, is just patron behavior and just really, really aggressive patrons, you know, towards staff. I'm sure everyone has seen that at a time or two, but it just felt like it was really amped up this year. So I was curious to hear if anyone else dealt with that at all, or if anyone else opened a water slide this summer.
Jeremy, hi, good morning.
How you doing?
Good. I
Good to-
will I will absolutely second the notion on aggressive patrons. I think that's a kind of a good way to put it. We had several instances where our lifeguards were berated even after rescuing a child by their parents, because I don't know if it was that they felt guilty or shamed, that they had to, you know, that their child was rescued, but they tried to turn on the staff and say, well, that they're so stupid, and they would even call them names. My child didn't need rescued, or my child didn't need help. And then all the patrons who just don't agree with your rules, who want to let it be known that they don't agree, and they'll belittle the staff, and again, curse at them, call them names. And I saw that definitely more this year than last year, big time. So I feel your pain there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was a difficult year for the staff, and I felt bad because we had a really young staff this year. And for two 19-year-old assistant managers, it was tough those days.
definitely.
Yeah.
Jeremy, hi, how you doing?
Hi, Audrey.
I think we had some similar things with patrons. One of the things, we did a survey at the end of the season for our staff, and one of the things that the staff really pounced on was the fact that they don't think the patrons read the rules, know the rules. The guards would tell the parents the rules, and the parents would just kind of shrug them off, thinking that, you know, I mean, I saw 2 3-year-olds wandering around the pool deck by themselves, and parents are sitting on their lounge chairs reading their book or talking to their friend. And at one point I made an announcement saying, patrons, if you have a child who's under the age of 4, please go attend them. And you wouldn't believe the amount of parents that had to stand up and go towards their child. I mean, we have signs up saying about parental, be within arm's length of your child. And they just assume, you know, they're in a closed fence environment, that they're being watched by the lifeguards. If they go in the pool, the guards are right there. And that's not, the parents are supposed to be also with their child. And one parent actually walked up to me and goes, well, why'd you make that announcement? I said, well, where's your child? And the child was on the other side. And this is a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, it's amazing that they just think, okay, to me, it kind of felt like it was a big playpen.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they assume that, you know, the guards, since they're all around the pool, they're watching every single solitary child, even if they're not in the pool, that they're just wandering around. It's really interesting. And the teenagers, that's another story. I mean, they're tough cookies too. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. We had you know, put up new signage this year, really trying to get the message across that you need to supervise your children. It's not a, you know, a question of if, it's you have to. And we actually, when we were at Kalahari for the conference, they had some wonderful signage that I had kind of taken and used, and just really reminding parents that, you know, guards have other children to watch. The guards have multiple people to watch in a zone, and you are their lifeguard all the time. And we took that message and basically used that, but we still have the same struggles that you're talking about. You know, we had talked to a lady 5 times in 1 week about supervising her 2 children, and she would not do it. Of course, every time a manager talked to her, you know, she indicated she understood, and she would, and she understood why it was important. And then, you know, within an hour, we'd have a guard coming and saying, you know, this child is by themselves, and it's a 2 or 3-year-old child. And so this is the first time in my memory that we actually revoked someone's membership because they would absolutely not supervise their children. And it was a safety risk for multiple people. So that was the first time that I can remember that. in my time here. But it's scary when you think about, parents just not being knowledgeable of what their children are doing or where they're at the moment. And we all know that a drowning can happen in a second, So it's interesting. What about the teenagers? I'm curious to hear that. You piqued my interest a little bit with that. What did you deal with there?
Well, they have to be, and I think everybody might have different ages, but they have to be at least 11 to be able to come to the pool by themselves. I think I've heard some people say 13, but we're age 11, and we have kids who, they'll if they're under 11, they'll try to come with somebody who's 11, and it's like, no, if they're under the age of 11, they've got to come with an adult.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're standing at the door, and I'm like, you can't come in. So then they'll text their friend whose mom's in the pool area and ask their moms if they'll come out and take ownership of the child. But then one mom came up to me and goes, I need to leave, and that child won't leave. And I was like, well, the child has to leave if you're the one supervising the child. So she's like, well, he won't leave. I'm like, oh, yes, he will. So I went over and I said, you're going to need to leave because your supervisor's leaving. And I kind of got a look, but I stood there waiting, and then the child did leave. But, I've got moms who call me or email me saying, my child's 10 and 6 months. I'm like, well, the child's not 11. So you're going to need to wait until your child's the right age. It's like, you're not going to get your driver's license because you're 15 and a half versus 16. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's amazing that they want to bend the rules constantly. And then they're tough ones to supervise when they're not supervised. Even the 11, 12-year-olds, they're doing all kinds of shenanigans up on the hill and leaving all their trash behind. And they're tough to watch too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just what Kristen had said earlier, in that, people want to question your rules and your policies, and they want you to make concessions for them. And it's draining, I think, is a word. Anyone else want to on this?
I'll chime in.
Hi, Julie.
How are you?
I'm here. How are you?
Just sitting here smirking to myself, happy that we can all commiserate together. Did anyone else have the senior citizen entitlement factor taking place? Because what I would qualify as my greatest headache of this 2022 season was the senior citizen female members. And we have a lazy river and a vortex and an adult swim, which has proven to be the worst combination this year. So they would go in the vortex for their adult swim. They wouldn't give the lifeguards any opportunity to remind all the kids that it's time to get out. And these women, almost on a daily basis, took it upon themselves to tell kids all over the pool what they should and shouldn't be doing. And then they accused kids of intentionally splashing them. We had to have a meeting with one of them. She requested the mayor, the council president, the borough manager, and myself attend. Everyone else politely declined, but I was asked to manage that meeting, of course. So it's things we went round and round, and they were most upset because the parents or grandparents of these kids that they were taking upon themselves to yell at and manage were getting upset with who are you to tell my kids what to do? So we had this ongoing, almost daily issue of a lifeguard calling us down to say, can you come down to the vortex, please? So towards the end of the summer, we wanted to refund their money and pay for them to go somewhere else. But most of our pools are closed, and we are it for multiple miles. So somebody tell me how we politely next year block their membership. Oh my gosh. It was ridiculous. And
Truly,
I
we
have a
had-
feeling they'll be coming to council to voice their opinion when I have to give my department presentation in October. Yay.
Of course.
Julie, we had a similar thing where our lap lanes are for lap swimming only, and we make that announcement constantly. And that was the area that they would all go to because that they didn't want to be near kids. They wanted to be in the pool, but they didn't want to be near kids. And that was a reason that they should be able to stand in the lap lanes. And then they had lap lane people saying, I can't swim laps because they're all standing in the lap lanes. And
It was ridiculous. I felt like we were babysitting senior citizens and having to navigate and provide some level of behavior modification where I just wanted to say, you need to go. We told them, you need to stop. You're taking your own safety into your own hands when you tell other people's children what they should and shouldn't be doing. One of these ladies got her hand grabbed because she was irritated and she splashed this other adult couple. So the guy comes in and grabs her wrist so she wouldn't splash again, and then she wants to file a complaint against them. I seriously felt like it was romper room for the senior citizens.
Anyone
I
else?
have no idea how we're going to navigate this next year, but I can tell you the staff would say if there was one problem, it was the persistent senior citizens. So
I can sympathize and empathize with you on this because the entitlement, you said it. We dealt with that all summer, and we have what's called an adult fitness hour before we open to the general public. And our rule is that you have to be in the water, either water walking or lap swimming, for at least 50% of the time. That is the hardest thing to enforce, and that was what most of the time the manager had to spend doing for that first hour. And hostility because they didn't want to abide by it. They didn't agree with it. It was, again, I'm going to use the term, it was very draining by the end of the summer, and having to deal with that particular thing. And of course, we have limited shade. We have 12 umbrellas and some trees. And, the goal for a lot of people that came in during that hour was, hey, let's secure an umbrella for the day, and we'll spend some time in the pool and look like we're actually doing the fitness hour. So, again, I feel you on that, Julie. I really do. Anybody else deal with similar problems or similar issues?
Jeremy, just to kind of jump off on some of those things, I joined late, so I apologize if we already went this route, but just mean teenagers, mean kids to one another, which just were disproportionately problematic for our staff. We had teenagers that knew some of our lifeguard staff because they're all teenagers. And so they basically bully the lifeguards while they were on duty. And that became a problem at some point that we had to intervene with. Just thinking about, the idea of like rule enforcement. We had parents that were the parent of the teenager that were being picked on, or the kid that were being picked on, asking for rules to be made to limit this. The example that happened more than once, somebody came to me and said, hey, you have the deep well area that's either diving board or swim when nobody's diving off the board. And, these mean group of kids target my kid as soon as, that they want to do something, they do the opposite. That way, they can't swim in the deep well. What are you going to do about that? And I'm like, it's diving first. So if somebody wants to dive, they get to dive. I'm sorry that they're using it as a bullying tactic for your kid, but I'm not going to make a new rule just to make this problem go away. So it just seemed like disproportionately frustrated things popped up, but just mean kids. And I know that's never going to go away, but it seemed like more this year compared to prior years, where it was just like, this is taking up far too much time to deal with this.
Definitely. Thanks for chiming in, Matt. Anyone else?
Sure.
Just throwing this out there as a general question. Do you find this behavior is it across the board, or is it people that are members where they feel they have a little bit more ownership entitlement, or is it day pass people, or is it just everyone?
Day pass people for us. Not a lot of season pass holders. It's a lot of the day pass folks.
That's a great thought, BK. I would say on some of it, it's day pass holders. Definitely. I agree with Matt. I think that if we're talking about the senior entitlement, that's definitely members that I've seen.
We generally have that entitlement problem, or people not following the rules for people who are doing our daily admissions coming in the door. Generally, our members don't. We have some sway over that because I can take your, $200 and some odd and make it go away. And thank you for your donation to the township. I appreciate that. But when we have the guests coming in, and a lot of times our problems here are when we're open and a lot of the other area pools aren't. And so we're getting an influx of people who, I don't know how to politically correct say this. I'm not a politically correct kind of guy, but people who are coming from different economic backgrounds, from different communities, who are not familiar with our pool, they're not familiar with our pool rules. 3 different times this summer, I had the race card thrown at me because our staff were being selective in how they were enforcing the rules. I was out there, I was on deck, I witnessed these things myself. The one conversation I had with the lady, she said that, why they've been blowing the whistle at us since we got here. I didn't think I know why, because I don't look like everybody else. And I happened to overhear that comment, and I said, no, ma'am. I said, you're being told your child is having a whistle blown at them because they're not following the rules, and it's a safety issue in and around the pool area. And she said, well, she doesn't blow the whistle, or they don't blow the whistle the same at my child as they do other children. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she says, well, when she blows it at another child, she follows up with honey or sweetie. She doesn't do that with my child. I said, the first 4 times she did, because I sat there and listened to her. I said, so before you want to start throwing the race card at me or any of our staff, you need to make sure you've got your facts straight. And that was we had that as an ongoing problem, and not so much in the meat of the summer, but the beginning and the end of the summer when we're open and other facilities are not. And that was probably the most difficult thing for our staff, because I think that was the farthest thing from their minds. So when they're getting accused of being a racist or being selective in who they're enforcing the rules on, it really kind of bothers them.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are breaking the rules. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
We had problems with the rules being followed by our pool members. I heard that from management. I heard it from the lifeguards. So it wasn't our dailies as much as it was our actual members. And they want, one of the suggestion is to have all the pool members sign something saying they read the rules when they buy their membership. I'm like, well, that's all well and good, but when they buy their membership in February or March and they read the rules and they sign off on it, then May comes and, they're not going to remember they're not going to remember the rules that they signed off on in February. And the rules are everywhere, just like you guys. I'm sure you have the rules posted everywhere. And the patrons, they're just, it's not just the dailies. It's a lot of our members, I'm being told, that are not following the rules, unfortunately.
Anyone else have any other thoughts?
I wanted to sorry, Jeremy. I just wanted to pipe in on one thought with Audrey bringing up the age requirement to get into the pool. And I see this every year. But again, this year, several incidents where you have to be at our pool, you have to be 13 without a supervisor to come in. So we have so many 12-year-olds that want to all of a sudden make an adjustment to their age in our database, that we've had it wrong all this time. And all of a sudden this year we had the wrong birth date for them. And I still have parents that try to lie and back them up so that they have a place to go and swim during the summer. And it just bothers me so badly that parents are providing that type of an example for their children by lying about their age, changing their birth date and going through this whole process to lie to somebody about, their age and get them into a facility before they're able to or should be able to. It just drives me crazy. So Audrey, I just thought I'd bring that up. And
yeah, I luckily my front desk staff, all three of them work in the school district. So they know the kids and they know their ages and what grade they're in.
Yeah.
And I tried to talk about changing the age, thinking about how you guys, I think a lot of you have it 13, and we were having problems with the 11-year-olds. And parents were like, my child's been waiting so long to be 11 to go by themselves, and now you're going to change it to 13? I was like, are you kidding me? Goodness.
I do it.
Jeremy, what's yours?
Ours is 13 as well. You have to be 13 to be by yourself.
When we had enough incidents with 10, 11, 12-year-olds, Audrey, I finally said enough. Like, you can see where the issues come from, and it was the age that they were coming in without supervisors, and that's when we upped it. But that was many, many years ago. But I'd say go for it. It's just, for me as a manager, it's like, how do you, I don't know, all of a sudden you're sifting through someone trying to tell you a lie. Is it now you're like investigating. You're like, am I really spending my time doing this? And I just got to the point where I said, look, if I've got a different birth date for your child in the system and you're trying to tell me that we're wrong after all these years, 12 years, we've gotten it wrong. Feel free to bring me your birth certificate. And I put it on them. I say, okay, you bring me ID, you bring me a birth certificate that shows me their birth date, and I will gladly update our system. But I never hear from them again until they try to sneak into the pool.
That's a great idea.
I don't know what else to do otherwise. So that's the only thing I can do to verify their age,
Can I
Yeah.
say something?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry that I came late to the meeting. Do any of you have the same problem as I do we have the age restriction also, and some of our parents will come in with their kids and go over and get them situated and then go to the car for something and then leave kids that are under 13, under 11 sitting in the pool? I told my staff that if they're too young, you're just going to have to call the police and let the police sort it out. But is that a problem for everyone, or is that just my town?
We've had that happen at our facility. Our gate attendants are really good about, letting me or letting the manager on duty know if they notice a parent leaving with a child who's under 14, which is our age requirement here. So in the instances where that has happened, I've just gone into their account and I've called the adult that's on the membership and I asked them to come up to the office. And sometimes it's really awkward when it takes them 10 minutes or 15 minutes to come up to the office. If they are really right in the parking lot, they'll come right up. But, it's what you have to do to make sure that they know that we're paying attention and they need to be in the facility.
Thanks for that.
Anyone else have anything that really ground their gears from this season? Because if not, we can switch gears and let's bring some positivity back. And
do.
here, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just curious to know if anyone else deals with this, cares to deal with this, just turns the other way. How are you all handling thongs? Thong bathing suit bottoms.
So glad you brought that up, Julie. I was just about to bring that up.
Okay, yay, we're all dealing with that, or someone is too. Oh, my favorite senior citizen women decided it was their job to point out everyone wearing a thong for at least the first 3 weeks of the season.
Of course.
And then I think when we started noticing they were heading in our direction, we would turn the other way and find something to do quickly. So it kind of resolved itself, but it is an issue, and I'm curious to know if you're doing anything about it, how it's being approached, or if you've just thrown up your hands to say, I guess we've lost this battle, if anyone has even tried to fight it. So go.
So our stance in Upper St. Clair is there's not an ordinance or a law that they are breaking, so we don't enforce it. Like, we don't question their bathing suit.
I'm right there with you, Chris. I have bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
But I say that it is somewhat bothersome. For me, the most bothersome is when it's my staff. They aren't buying thongs, but I don't know if their suits are too small, but they're pulling them up their rear so far that they look like thongs. And it seems to spiral. It seems like once one does it, another one does it. And then they're all wearing swimsuits that are riding up their, like they're walking around with wedgies. It is an awkward thing to try to manage that. So, yeah, I could use some advice too. I don't know if anybody else is dealing with that.
The only thing I would recommend, because a few years ago we had that issue, we were looking at just buying our lifeguards the suits then, and then we would have a little bit more leeway to make sure that they fit correctly. But since we don't buy their suits, we do have to deal with that from time to time.
We do buy their suits. We buy them one suit a year. So I don't have that problem. And oh my goodness, I can't even imagine dealing with that.
Just to kind of add our perspective, we do buy suits, and we give them the option of 2 different suits, either a 2-piece or a 1-piece. I work with the local swim shop in order to pick them out of the catalog. I do use some of my female leads, whether it be head lifeguards or managers, to just run them by them and make sure that it's not something totally off base. But it's a more conservative 2-piece. It's a regular 1-piece. They get to pick whichever they want for staff uniform. And then as far as like the general public goes, we moved to a standard line that they must wear apparel suitable for swimming. And then if it comes up where, we believe it's not apparel suitable for swimming, then we usually give them like a card that says no denim, no cutoffs, no, that type of stuff. But for the most part, we haven't had any significant issues after moving that policy where somebody's gone totally off base. But yeah, we do get some complaints from folks saying that's too much skin, or thought this was a family appropriate place, or some comment of that nature. And we just respond with, we're not going to tell somebody, what size or shape swimsuit to wear. It looks like they are wearing a swimsuit based on the policy, and we leave it at that.
Yeah, we won't address patrons coming in the pool, and how we address our employees, because we don't buy their swimsuits. Although I tell them where they can go buy their swimsuit, and this is what's approved inside our employee handbook that we go over in the beginning of the year. We specifically highlight how the uniform is to be worn, and that would include the wedgies, Kristen, that you were talking about, and we address it that way. But I'm going to tell you, from a male's perspective, to have to address that, especially with a minor child, I really don't think that the issue is big enough that I want to deal with a lawsuit or deal with the parents or deal with anything else that comes that way. So we addressed it in the employee handbook. We go over that in our in-service training without highlighting any one individual, and hope that it resolves itself along the way.
So what we did years ago is we've told our female guards, just so we can avoid this topic entirely with them, is that they are required to, when they're on the deck, when they're in their stand, they need to wear a lightweight short over their suit. And we get pushback from a couple individuals in particular, but we just say they need to cover their suit bottom with a pair of lightweight shorts, and it's part of their uniform. And for the most part, we haven't dealt with too many issues. Otherwise, we would be dealing with the same issues you're dealing with, Kristen. And for us, that's continued to work so far. Our bigger
Are you
issue
buying
is,
the shorts?
no, we give them a framework or some ideas. We also, we buy everything else for them. We give them a framework of the type of suit we'd like them to purchase. Like, oh, for the females, one-piece red suit doesn't have to say guard. It can say guard, but just so they're in a uniform color. And maybe because we've been doing this for so long, we haven't had pushback. They just come to expect it. But that's not an area we have to contend with. And I think it's honestly because of that. But I am curious to know if anyone started with a no thong rule. I don't know if it's just our area is maybe more conservative than others with respect to the family-friendly environment. We still get the support of council, but they're also recognizing, for the same reason that you said, Dave, nobody wants to walk up and have to approach anyone about this. It's very uncomfortable and it's becoming more pervasive. So it sounds like the solution is some level of just accepting this and moving on to more important things, because you're right. Like, we have so many other more safety related concerns that we need to invest our time.
So we actually, we do have signage that indicates no thongs, but I will tell you, if I'm manager on duty and we have a legitimate issue, I'm seeking out one of my female assistant managers. There's no way I'm touching that. Secondly, more so than thongs, we just deal with kind of what you had indicated, Julie. Patrons say, well, that looks like it's not appropriate. And maybe it's just, we're not telling them what size swimwear that they should be wearing, right? So we dealt more with that than actual thongs. And I agree. I don't think it's something that I want to be dealing with for the future. There are way more important things. So, but if we did have a legitimate issue, then we would I would always seek out, a female manager to address that. And they'd simply handle it as, hey, you may not even be aware of this, but this is actually a policy. So we would always approach it from that. And usually people didn't have an issue. So, but it's interesting to hear how everyone else has approached it. So I think that's really good.
Jeremy, the way we approach it from a conflict resolution standpoint is whenever somebody brings that complaint up to one of our staff, they're taught to just verify that whatever they're wearing is in fact, swimsuit material. And if they can verify that, their response back to the complainant is, if you'd like to take up, details of our swimsuit policy, please contact our main offices at blank. And that's kind of the end of it for them.
Yeah, and it sounds like you really just latched onto the phrase, apparel suitable for swimming, which I really like.
Correct. Yeah, that's really been a lot of diffusing stuff for us.
Yeah, I like that. That's great. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
I never thought I'd be talking about thongs so much here, but here we go. Does anyone have some things they want to celebrate from this year? Things that went really well? Things that you're proud of?
We brought in more money than we had budgeted to bring in. So
That's
I'm happy
always
about
something.
that.
Was that membership? Was that daily admission, or was that just in general?
Both.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
Great job, Audrey.
thanks. And we were able to keep the snack shack open. That was a struggle. I don't know how all of you did with your snack shack, but we were able to get enough staff to keep it open. So I was happy about that.
Very cool.
Jeremy, I would say again for us at Mechanicsburg, the number of saves that we had at our slide and Aquazippin was way down. So that was a big plus for us. Everybody was excited about that. The fact that in the beginning of the summer, I had only 13 lifeguards, and by the end of the summer, I ended with about 24. So I was excited, and everybody else was too. We still weren't able to keep our pool open until Labor Day, but at least we ended with a good amount of staff.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I can say that I was proud. I had a really young staff this year, and I was particularly proud of them, how they grew throughout the season and really relied on them at the end of the season when we were still staying open, but with reduced hours. I saw a lot of individuals step up and take ownership of the situation, since there was not a lot of senior guards on duty. And so that was really good to see. And that was a proud moment for me.
I'll concur with that, Jeremy. We had almost as many young 15, only a few 16-year-olds as we did college age guards. And it was really impressive to see how quickly they caught on and embraced the importance of their job. So, and also I think developing a more firm foundation coming out of COVID, and seeing more growth and interest in lifeguarding kind of reemerge was really encouraging.
Definitely. Awesome. Anyone else?
I'll say one more quick note. We actually, for the first time, had adult lifeguards. Two individuals come out to express interest. One was a retired gentleman. I'm not sure if he's from the area or just recently came, but we did a joint job fair with our local YMCA, where he had just recently started working at their front desk and obtained his lifeguarding with them. And he gets the Gold Star Award for most valuable employee of the summer. He would work swimming lessons. And towards the back end of the summer, he was definitely an inspiration. There was another gentleman kind of closer to retirement age, flexible schedule, who said, I can do that. Came out and actually helped us tremendously finish out the summer. So I think there's a market out there for some adults if we can just get the right poster child up and using that as a marketing opportunity, because they just brought an element of maturity to the staff environment. And I think the staff embraced and really respected them on multiple different levels. So it improved that dynamic too. So
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
And I think Chris Biswick would agree with you probably. I know, Chris, you've touted adult and I think senior lifeguards for a while, right?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have 12 non-traditional age adults because a year-round swimming pool, and one of my lifeguards just got recertified, and his certification will take him till age 80. We have a great recruitment with the older adults. The Red Cross has expressed multiple times that their marketing strategy will have different age groups, not just teenagers. So that should help too. And then the woman from Philadelphia has helped because she made national news multiple times. So I think it's getting out that, it's not a teenage job. And my adults are continuously recruiting more adults. So once you get one or two, that's the hardest part, getting those one or two. But then once you get those, the seniors will continue to recruit for you.
Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah, you just need to get one good one, and then it can really snowball. That's really cool. Anyone else have any other things to celebrate? If not, I'll give you a second to chime in. But if not, Chris, I think you had some questions about wages for 2023 and maybe user fees as well.
Yeah. So we're continuously up in our starting wage, pretty much all summer long. 50 cents here, then another 50 cents. Is everyone kind of good with the number that they ended? We ended at 13. We're looking at maybe another 50 cents to $1 for the winter because our staff have dropped off. I have a bunch of holes right now in my schedule. So I'm just curious on where everyone else is sitting. Are we looking at raising rates for next year? And if so, are you taking that and putting that on the users and raising swim lessons and daily admissions? Anyone?
I'll just chime in, Chris. In Carlisle here, we raised our wages for staff pretty significantly this year. So I'm not proposing any increase from the starting wage. Now, all of our returning staff will get some sort of an increase. Typically, it's 25 cents an hour. In some cases, depending on the position, it's 50 cents an hour. So they will get an increase for returning staff, but yeah, we're not looking at increasing wages again 2 years in a row. I'd love to, but
right. And what is your starting wage?
So guards are starting at I want to say 12 or 13, somewhere around in there. I'll get that number for you.
We actually started at 14. My question was going to be though, Jeremy, is there a way that we can do a wage study across the state to kind of compare lifeguards, seasonal lifeguards? I mean, we give a quarter an hour raise every year that they consecutively come back, and we do that across the board. I know there's a wage study we did here locally, and Chris, I think we took yours into consideration too. Because we had to bump an unbudgeted $3 an hour raise for 60 lifeguards that we have on staff during the summer. And that didn't play well with the rest of my staff. We carry about 250 people throughout the course of the summer. Of those, about 200, maybe 175, 200 are seasonal staff. Of those seasonal staff, 60 of them got a significant raise, where the rest of them didn't. And we had to kind of juggle that and pad it a little bit. So budget time this year is really being difficult, from camp counselors to our cash handlers at the water park to concession workers and everything else. But I can open without a concession stand. I can't open up without enough guards. So that was the argument all summer. But I'm even getting pushback from our preschool teachers now, and the aides over there. So they're really hammering us hard on it. That being said, I want to see what we compare with everybody else and what everybody else is doing. Is that something that we can do and get done this summer and really push it out? I mean, I'm sitting there looking, we got 18 participants from different pools all over the state just sitting here right now. If we push that out to the whole branch, that might be something that'd be beneficial for everybody, especially moving into 2023 and seeing where we're going to be.
That's a great idea, Dave. And I know we did this, gosh, I want to say 5 to 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. And certainly I think it's a great idea. So maybe that's something we can collaborate with and get, just get some quick questions out there to see, where you start, what kind of raises you do, how you handle raises through the season. I think that's definitely a great idea. So that's something we can do as a branch and get that going. So, be on the lookout for that is what I'll say.
All right, good.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Jeremy, could you include like the bonus? I know some of you in emails, I think more Central PA group, talked about how they give out bonuses if they work, a certain amount of days over the course of a summer or work all the way through Labor Day. And I'm just wondering, how does that bonus money work? Like if you're giving out cash or how are you doing that to make it, I don't know. I mean, I mentioned that in my town, my community, and it was like, well, how do you do that? Like, is it like just you're giving them extra hours in their paycheck, or how do you guys do that? I'm just curious.
Hey, Audrey, we've been doing this for a long time. And I think we did raise rates, pay rates this year, but also increased the diversity of bonuses offered. But we set this up years ago with our payroll department, and they established a special code that's also an indicator in case they pull someone's time card for auditing purposes. And I have a whole calculation system, but one of our simple bonuses is if you work all 3 days of the Labor Day weekend, at least half a day, you will receive an additional quarter for every hour you worked during the operational season. So it takes some time and good record keeping to keep this process fairly simple. But I just calculate that and I will add it to a payroll at the end of the season with this special code that they've established. So it identifies those hours as bonus money. And, some of them are walking away with a nice little chunk of change at the end of the season, for their commitment. But that's kind of the internal process that's been pretty easy to keep track of. But it is run through the payroll and it is taxed as it normally would be.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
I'll
welcome.
talk to my payroll department about that. I just didn't know how that worked.
Ours is run through payroll as well for our bonuses.
So do you advertise that in the beginning of the season, or is that something that, okay.
Yeah. It's part of our policy manual and we review it during our orientation process.
Hey guys, as far as our hourly wage, we're not competing so much with other Parks and Rec folks around us. What we found here at the end of the season is that our guards knew other lifeguards who worked at local HOA and community pools and things like that, that were making really good money as a lifeguard. And they were, especially for our head guards, we're making less than lifeguards other places. So we really missed the boat on keeping up with those rates because we went up by a quarter from last year. So our starting guard rate is $10.75 and it goes up to $12 for a 5th year lifeguard, which is not a lot compared to having been here for 5 seasons. And then we were at $13.50 for head lifeguard and we were at $15 for pool manager. And we found out that, again, other pool managers at places nearby, the pools that were making like $20 an hour. So we were really gapped in regard to how much we have. So right now we're in budgeting season, like I'm sure most of everybody on the call is. So we're trying to go as high as ultimately our board of commissioners will let us. So I think the first number that was submitted was a starting guard rate of, I think, $14 an hour. Our director does a lot of the budgeting, so he's putting a lot of those numbers together. But ultimately we're trying to make a jump in regards to getting closer when everything scales on top of there. The problem that we ran into is that, just like I know Dave was mentioning, some positions got raised this past summer because honestly, we just weren't able to hire anybody because they were getting jobs that paid more other places. Like concessions got raises pretty much across the board. Their lead concession staff actually made $15 an hour, and that jumped from whatever it was before. And so we had a mini mutiny at different points throughout the summer where they were like, why is so-and-so making as much as I am, or whatever it ended up being. So that really bit us, but that wasn't something we could control because concessions run outside Parks and Rec. So they just saw it as a, this for that, and didn't realize that it was ultimately Anaheim Township employees. So we're competing against our own employees for raises and for hourly rates. So it's definitely a problem that's not going to go away until we get a better beat across the board on those rates.
I just pulled up our wage scale when we adjusted it. Like I said, we gave it ended up being a $4 an hour raise to those that were certified as a lifeguard, regardless of what position you stayed in. It was $3 an hour over what we had initially budgeted. So our lifeguard base rate was $14 an hour with a quarter an hour increase over that for every year that you've worked for us. The head lifeguards, which are like an assistant supervisor position, were at $16 an hour. The water park managers were $18.50 if you were not certified, $19.50 if you were certified, because I don't have a requirement that you have to be certified to be the MOD. To give you a comparison, a concessions attendant would be making $10 an hour. So there's a $4 an hour difference between them. And even the coordinator in concessions, or a coordinator for guest relations, who have to literally handle hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, we're still making less at $13 an hour than a lifeguard, a 15-year-old lifeguard who's a first year. So it really created a problem for us. And it's going to be a financial burden next year when we get everything adjusted, because otherwise we're just not going to get some of those folks back. Did anybody else run into that this year? I know Matt was mentioning that.
Dave, just to kind of add one more piece on that, my biggest fear, and I think it's a real fear at this point, is that we were incredibly young this last year, where we had a bunch of 15 and 16-year-old guards. I mean, I had very few 17, 18-year-old guards. Is that we become a feeder system for all these local pools where they get a job with us at 15, 16 and go, that was cool. Now I'm going to go make an extra $3 an hour working somewhere else. And I've tried to be vocal about that to our rec director. And I think he's, in our corner on that, but that's my greatest fear right now, is that because we had a lot of guards last summer, we ultimately might dig our own, hole on that, is that they're going to get better paying jobs somewhere else next summer. But that's our problem here.
So yeah, I think the wage study would be really beneficial here in a lot of the comments here. So to give us an idea of where everyone falls on this. I think Julie, that Labor Day weekend bonus, that's interesting. I had never heard that before, and I think that's a very unique take on it, and I think that's a really cool idea. So. Dave, can I also ask you a question? Did you say you don't require your managers on duty to be certified, but if they are, they get an extra $1 an hour? Was that what you said?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, and I agree with you, but do you get, if they're not certified, does your staff have a different approach to them if they're not certified?
No.
Okay.
No, we got about 130 people that work at the water park. 60 of them are lifeguards. So, we have enough there. I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've trained a lot of LGIs on staff. So I this past summer, I probably had like 15 LGIs. I'll educate those MODs that are not certified and what they should be looking for and how they do it. But no, I don't think that there's any lack of respect because they're not certified or, looked down upon or anything like that. We've had plenty in the past. This past year, both of the MODs, I only have 2 of them. Both the MODs were certified lifeguards, were actually LGIs. So, they had the respect. So I didn't have to run into that. But like Matt, a lot of my staff were young, 15-year-olds. And, fortunately, we're looked at as we probably drain more from the pools around us than they siphon off of us, because we treat them real well. We do all the training. And it was interesting. The reason we had to go to $14 an hour this year, we set our wages, we hire our staff early. We've got a lot of hiring to do. There's a lot of moving parts with it. So we start early, and we had the local pools that were around us ask us what we were paying. And to a pool, they all one-upped us starting the year. So we were really struggling to get things going. So I said, you know what? We can do this. They went overboard with some of their paying. They don't know how they're going to pay for it. They can't absorb it. And it was interesting because they were calling me to train their staff as WSIs and LGIs so they could pick up a little extra money and cover those costs. I'm like, no, I think I'm just going to train staff this year. So I kind of stuck with it, and we kind of went on from there. So if I didn't know them, I wasn't helping them out too much this year.
Yeah, that's interesting that they took that approach of one up in you. I've seen that happen before, and it's like, really?
Yeah, we're in this together as long as it benefited them. But
yeah,
when we didn't, it didn't work out well. So
yeah.
Whoops, we're there.
All right, BK, where are we at time wise?
Well, we are a bit over the hour, so I didn't want to be the wet blanket on the discussion, but if time has gotten away from you, we are past 11 now.
Okay. BK, would I have about 5 minutes to give an update on the branch? Is that a possibility?
You have as much time as you need.
Okay. I'm going to take probably about 5 to 10 minutes. I just wanted to give everyone kind of an update here on where we are at with the branch, and to give you an idea of where branches are at in general within the society. So as the aquatics branch president, I've been serving on the board of directors since the beginning of my term, which was March of 2021. We have had a lot of discussions on participation within the branches and the health of some of the branches. And so I kind of wanted to give everyone here a heads up on what you will be receiving this coming Monday. You will be getting a message from the board of directors, and it will go into some rationale behind some thoughts we have regarding branches and sections, and we will be asking for your participation in a member ballot. Again, that is set to go to everyone on Monday, September 26th. It will have, again, information on the board of directors' thought process regarding the branches within PRPS, and also the size of the board of directors as well. So look for that this coming Monday, and you will have approximately 1 month to vote in the balloting there. Anyone that is a member of PRPS, we encourage you to vote. In addition to that, I know I'm hitting you with a lot of information, but we will be having 2 open forums within the month of October. They will be Wednesday, October 5th and Thursday, October 13th. Again, this email that you'll receive on Monday will have the specific times for those open forums, and we'll also have the meeting ID and the passcodes for those open forums. The open forums will have anyone on the board of directors that is able to participate will be on there to answer any questions that you have regarding our board thought process here, and really to make you comfortable with again any questions or concerns that you have. So again, please be on the lookout for that email. Again, it will be sent this coming Monday, September 26th, which also happens to be my birthday. So happy birthday to me. But be on the lookout for that. It is very important that you do take the time to actually read it. And at that point, please reach out to me with any questions you have or any concerns you have. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions, as would any of our other board members. However, with the specific aquatics branch here, I want to be able to allay any concerns or answer any questions you have. So again, be on the lookout for that on Monday, and then you'll have approximately a month to vote in that. But I encourage you to attend one of the open forums as well. Again, the email that you will get on Monday will have that specific information there as well. I hit you with a lot of info there. If there's any questions you have immediately, I'd be happy to answer them quickly, or you can give me a call or send me an email as well. I'm on my phone, so I can't really put my information in there in the chat box, but I'm sure a lot of you have it. BK, would you be able to put that up in the chat box for me? Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jeremy, a quick question on that. Is there
Yeah.
any way that we could possibly get a salary survey or an hourly rate survey prepared to go out in that email on Monday? I don't mind putting something together, but it seems like that's going to go to a lot of important people that we'd want answers from. Is that something that I could help with, or just
So,
with?
yeah, absolutely. BK, is that, I don't know if we would include that within that. I think that's going to be a separate thing, but I think regardless, we can work on the salary survey and try and get it and get something done quickly. So yeah, I'd love to have your help on that, Matt. And
Yeah, I
Dave as
definitely
well.
can. I think the communication piece may get a little lost in all of that going into one email, and I'm not sure
Correct.
the board would necessarily, agree with that process either. So
Correct.
that
Sure.
I
Makes
think
sense,
maybe
guys.
two separate pieces, but we definitely can work on the survey.
Yeah, definitely, BK. And I'll touch base with you about that. And I think if we get that out within the next week, I think that would be good. But yeah, as BK mentioned, this message from the board is going to go to every member of the society. And we want it to specifically be about that. So, but would love your help on the salary survey, Matt, and also Dave as well, and anyone else that wants to help.
Thanks, guys.
And I did see your question there, Kristen. There's currently not anything scheduled, but that does not mean that we cannot. It's definitely getting into very busy season here at PRPS and all the different pieces we have moving. But I can talk with Dan and Nikki and Jeremy. If you guys decide that's something you would like to have us coordinate for you, we can do that.
Thanks,
Okay.
BK. I thought I saw something. It was either in an email or something. I thought it was actually like an aquatics maintenance roundtable that was already scheduled for October. And I'm looking in my emails now to see if I can recover it. But so there isn't anything planned at this time.
Nothing that I have set in stone, but I can double check the calendar and things too.
Okay. I didn't want to miss anything, but yeah, I thought it was a good idea actually, next month, maybe to look at something like that. Maybe we can talk about winterizing, I know we're out of time today, but winterizing, off-season maintenance, that type of thing.
And
Absolutely.
potentially here to discuss the salary survey and where that lies. That could be October, November, something like that. I mean, obviously we have the fall membership meeting coming up in November, so salary survey can be discussed then too. But so awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for the participation here this morning. Everyone had some really great thoughts, comments, ideas. Love to hear how your season went, and really appreciate everyone's time. When the discussion is lively like it was today, an hour goes pretty quick. So thank you everyone for that. Thank you, BK, for kind of getting things going and hosting. And I appreciate everyone's time. Again, regarding the branch stuff, please reach out to me with any questions.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.